Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, my name is Nick Savory, owner, operator, and doer of pretty much everything at Mecha Warehouse these days. And I thought it'd be a great idea to put together a Q&A video and answer some questions from customers and the public in general. So I put out a post on my Instagram stories a couple days ago looking for questions. And I want to take some of those questions and answer them today for you. Before we get going though, just to give you just a little bit of background, because some people still aren't really aware, Mecha Warehouse is my business. We are an online seller of Gunpla, Gunpla being plastic model kits primarily of Gundams. We also sell some figure kits, tools, paints, accessories, things like that. But basically our mission as a business is to provide that local store community kind of feel with the convenience and prices that you get from an online store. That's been our mission. I like to think that we're succeeding at that so far. But I guess you'll be a better judge of that than I will. So without much further ado, I want to kind of get into the questions. So the first question I have is how to start painting Gunpla. So this is a question that really deserves its own video. So I'm just going to kind of skirt over pretty quickly here, and maybe I'll get back to it in a future video. Long story short, I would check out tutorials online, try to get some links in the bottom of the video here to some that I can find. We have a couple sponsored builders that are on YouTube. Justinius Builds does some amazing paint work, and Gunpla University does as well. Find some tutorials. The other thing I'd recommend, especially if you're going to airbrush, is to get by a ton of plastic spoons and just practice painting spoons until you get the hang of it. The hardest part is figuring out thinner ratios, getting a handle on the technique, and those kind of details. So, and just experimenting. All right. Question number 2. This one comes from Vanzai. Why are tools always out of stock everywhere? A lot of this stuff's coming from Japan, China, Korea. All the Gundam model kits are made in Japan for the most part, at least the Bandai ones. And that basically means you've got a lot of importing that has to happen. Things are traveling from overseas. It's expensive. It's time consuming. And as a result, it's hard to predict what the demand will be, how many you need of a given item. Apparently, we haven't, as collectively as an industry, figured out how to manage those imports in such a way to always have things in stock. And so I would assume that carries over to most of these tool manufacturers as well, trying to get enough stuff in the country to have it in stock when people need it, despite fluctuating demand, is an interesting and challenging problem to solve. Plastic Germs asks, besides Bandai, will you be trying to acquire other popular model brands? And the answer to that is, of course, yes. Yes! 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 We've already got a little bit of Kotobukiya stuff in stock. We plan on getting more, and we'll be going after more plastic model kits, resin kits, all that kind of stuff as we grow and expand. As you're probably aware, maybe not, this whole business is run out of my house and basically by myself. I'm able to convince my wife to help me from time to time on a few things, but for the most part, it's all me. And so just the time involved in seeking out these other brands, dealing with inventory, ordering, all that kind of stuff, I'm basically buried as it is. So it's just a gradual process of adding new product lines as we go. We spend a lot of time, or I've spent a lot of time trying to add paints and tools from a lot of places, including some that we'll be announcing soon. We just added Delby decal today, the day that I'm recording this. By the time you see this, they'll have been up for a little while. We might even have our first restock in. So we're gradually expanding as much as we can. Dal Cowboys 01 asks, I was curious, do you open the box and build a Gundam, or ship it to them, or do you ship it without opening it? This is a good question. We definitely have some people following us that are not already in the hobby, and that's wonderful. I love getting more people into the hobby. That's, I think, better for everybody as we go. So basically, we sell kits. They are, an example here. This is the Gouf high grade right here. This kit is a kit. You buy it, you put the pieces together. You can assemble it as simply as just snapping the pieces together. That they're snap model kits. They go together fairly easily. And some people go to great extremes, repainting them, adding decals, custom panel lines and details and kit bashing and all that kind of stuff. But Mecha Warehouse just provides the kits and the tools and the community around it to help support builders. If you are interested in a kit that's already built, there are plenty of builders out there that do commission work. There are some amazing builders that will build a kit for you and do all that stuff for you. But personally, I think the value in the hobby is building it yourself. Donnie319 asks, how do you know what to stock? Does Bandai give you data, or do you use public data like search volume or other platforms like Amazon sales ranking, etc.? Donnie, that's a great question. I actually started the business selling primarily on Amazon and using Amazon for fulfillment. So I got really familiar with Amazon sales rank and actually used that early on to determine what to get. One of the things I figured out pretty quickly though is that Amazon sales rank doesn't reflect the rest of the Gunpla world. Most hardcore serious builders that build more than the occasional kit don't tend to buy their kits on Amazon. They've realized that they can find a greater selection at better prices for the most part other places. So what I do now is I use a little bit of gut feel and kind of putting my ear to the ground. We have a Discord server, so our members definitely get some buzz going and ask for kits that they're looking for. And that definitely helps a lot. And just seeing what everybody's talking about for new releases especially. Things that aren't new releases is, again, a little bit of that gut feel. Certain series are definitely more popular than others, and it's pretty obvious which ones make sense to get for sure. But you'll often find when we add a new item to the store that we haven't had before, we'll get a few of them and not a ton just to test the waters a little bit, so you don't get stuck sitting on hundreds of a kit that's not going to sell. Searchlight asks, should painting be done before or after assembly? That's a good question. I'm not necessarily the best person to answer this, as I've only gotten to painting myself over the last several months, last year, something like that. I've only painted a few kits, but I think what most people do, most serious painters, will actually assemble the kit and then disassemble it to paint the parts. And the reason they do that, and the reason I do that at least, is it gives you a feel for what pieces are going to show, what things need to be cleaned up, what needs to be fixed, such as seam lines and mold lines and stuff like that before you paint, that you don't necessarily see when you're looking at parts on a runner or looking in the manual. And so that's what I would recommend. Build it, take it apart, be careful about how you put it together. Some people actually will snip pegs down and stuff to make the pieces easier to disassemble, and that tends to work out pretty well for most people. Okay, next question. That Nacho guy asks, I want to get into Gunpla. What do I need to buy prior? This is a really good question for anybody who's thinking about getting into the hobby. Basically, the bare minimum you need is a pair of nippers. A good example would be the entry nippers made by Bandai. We have them up on our site. These are right here. They're really inexpensive. Good for the money. There's obviously better ones on the market that are more advanced or higher quality for very serious builders. But that's basically the bare minimum, and those are used to cut the pieces off of the runner. You can take things a few steps past that. I'd recommend considering that early, but you don't need to. One additional item would be Gundam markers, specifically panel lining markers. Like these, they have a very thin tip, which is good for fitting right into the little grooves and panel lines on the kit. And getting into that detail and highlighting that detail goes a long way to make the detail kind of pop. I'll use a white eraser like this one to kind of remove any excess marker that's on there. The other thing that you could do to take it to the next level would be sanding sponges, sanding sticks. So that's what these are. I use the 3M because they're relatively inexpensive, but there are definitely specific hobby ones. We carry Tamiya in the store. We plan on getting some other brands in the near future, and basically use those to help sand down the nubs being the surface where you cut it away from the runner. And what happens with the colored plastic, if you're not going to paint the kit, when you cut that nub off, you get a stress mark, or you can, which is basically a white discoloration, or usually a white or a light colored discoloration. Doesn't usually show up on white plastic nearly at all, but if you cut like a dark blue plastic, for example, it will show up. If you cut with nippers that aren't super sharp, even with good nippers, they can show up. So the best practice is to cut a little bit away and then sand that last bit off and that will give you a cleaner, final result. So if you're thinking about jumping into the hobby, I'd recommend get an inexpensive kit, try it, snap it up, build it, see what you like, look at what other people are doing, and then take it from there. You can always go back and clean up a kit. You can always go back and paint a kit. I think just trying something and doing the bare minimum to start, just to get your feet wet a little bit, so to speak, and you'll figure out very quickly what you like and where you want to go with it. Okay, next question is from Minianji. Minianji is actually a moderator on the Mecha Warehouse Discord. So what's up, Ian? And Ian writes, more Mecha Warehouse branded items coming in the future. And that's another good question. We've got a ton of plans for adding some Mecha Warehouse branded stuff. We have shirts now, and we just did these wonderful challenge coins. Super proud of these and how they came out. Hopefully those show up okay in focus. These are for Discord members who want them, but we've got those. I wouldn't be surprised to see hats and pins and patches and more stickers at some point in the near future. And I got some other plans for some branded merch that I think is going to be awesome, but I can't tell anybody what they are yet. They're really super secret. Crash Domo asks, introduction to airbrush painting. So this is kind of like that earlier question. I should plan on putting together a video for this maybe at some point in the future, but there's plenty of tutorials out there, good articles people have written. I'd recommend finding and reading a few and then trying to dive in. It's Unpunched Card asks, what do you consider to be the perfect kit for a first-time builder? This is a great question. I get asked quite frequently what kits to get if you're starting out. The two, we'll say three, that I think I recommend the most. The first one is the RX 78-2 Revive HG kit. It's really like a perfect high-grade kit. It's a classic with the RX 78, classic Gundam that everybody knows and loves. It's got some decent detail, good articulation that goes together super well. If you're a Gundam Wing fan, the high-grade Leo is a great kit. Not too many flaws with that one, and that's the kind of kit that I'd say if you're a serious builder that you very well might build a handful in your life. I know I've got a handful in my backlog, so I plan on building a bunch of them. And it's a good kit, goes together pretty well. And if you're into Gundam Wing, who doesn't love the Leo? And then the other one is the Maganac. I'm particularly fond of the high-grade Maganac kit. Another Gundam Wing kit. I've built 41 of them because of the 36-piece kit. I did a charity live stream back in December where I built the whole thing in pretty much one straight shot. A little bit crazy, but that's also a decent kit. A little bit more challenging than the other two that I just mentioned, but it's a real good kit, pretty inexpensive. And pretty good at reshooting this. I missed some questions. Hello, camera number 2. You're probably going to be useless. Okay, here we go. Mecha Otaku 96 asks, favorite grade and scale of models. So for the Gunpla kits, 1/100 master grade kits are definitely my favorite. I'm a huge fan of the size and just the presence that those kits bring, the level of detail. They go together in a much more intricate way, I guess, than the typical high grade does, and they just stand out so much more on your shelf. I'm definitely a fan of master grades. High grades are good, real grades can be good. Perfect grades, of course, can be popular with some builders, but to me, master grade's the sweet spot. And if I could only build one grade, it would definitely be master grade. What was the inspiration to start Mecha Warehouse? And that was written by Kaiser Wolf. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I guess first off, there was a video I put together a few weeks back, which is kind of the brief origin story of Mecha Warehouse. So if you're interested in this, you can go find that video. I'll try to put a link to that somewhere, maybe down here. The really, really short version for the Q&A is I started Mecha Warehouse basically to try to get out of my day job. I have a consulting business doing embedded software consulting work for various clients. And while I loved engineering when I first got into it, I think the thrill is gone for me. I've kind of lost that passion for it. And a lot of it is, I think, just doing client work. I like building things. I like designing things. I don't really like working with clients and having to deal with their arbitrary requirements and needs. Not that I haven't had good clients, but kind of burnt me out. And so somewhere in that I decided I wanted to start a business that was simple, but at the same time wanting something that's based around a passion of mine. And having relatively recently at the time gotten pretty serious about building model kits, I figured it was the perfect cross section of interests. That's how I got into running Mecha Warehouse. Done here. Okay, next question. Woody the Pimp asks, do you think MGEX will be a real grade that's 1/100 size? So for anyone that's not aware, Bandai trademarked a few days ago MGEX, which is supposed to stand for, I believe, Master Grade Extreme. And so there's a lot of speculation that that's just going to be a real grade scaled up. I feel like a real grade was already basically a master grade scaled down, so I don't really see that being the case personally. It could be. It could just be a more detailed master grade, maybe. It could also just be a really large master grade. Maybe they decide to scale things up. There's already a few kind of large master grades. The Deep Striker and XS Gundam and things like that come to mind. But they very well could be thinking, let's make a master grade Dendrobium, say, which would be extremely huge. There's obviously a bunch of opinions out there. We'll probably find out in 6 months when they decide to announce what the line's all about. Should be exciting either way. I'm sure everyone will have their opinion on whether it was a good idea or a bad idea and about whether they're going to jump in on it, but we'll find out. Okay, one more. Stuck in the Void asks, what's your most purchased Gunpla kit? Which one do people keep asking for more of? So without having the data all drawn up, this is kind of gut feel. I know for sure the master grade Barbatos is probably the most popular master grade and maybe kit in general out there right now. Those fly off the shelf. I got 48 of them in a couple weeks ago and they sold out in about a week and a half. Thankfully just got restocked. A lot of those sales are coming from other channels like our eBay store on the side. PS, don't go looking for it because you're going to get the same kits for a better price on our site directly, especially if you order more than one where you save shipping and won't have to pay sales tax. So those are really popular. Also, our Gundam wing kits, the master grade Gundam wing kits, are also really well. Tall Geese, Heavy Arms, Death Scythe, Sandrock, Shenlong, etc. They don't stick around for very long. I'm finding that I'm buying more and more every time I order them. People ask about them when they go out of stock. They're super popular as a group, and I can definitely see why. I'm almost through building the set myself, and they're very nice kits considering that they're a little bit aged. They've been around a while, but the fact that everybody in the US, or a large portion of us, got hooked on Gundam because of Gundam Wing, that's kind of a no-brainer why they're so popular. So anyway, that was the last question. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this was informative. If you're interested in checking out what we got, please head over to mechawarehouse.com and see what we've got. We're constantly adding new inventory to the website, expanding our product offerings, adding product lines, restocking, all that stuff. It's our mission to be kind of the best option out there for buying Gunpla. We take great pride in our customer service. I can guarantee you nobody else, none of the big players at least, are responding to messages as fast as we are. You're not getting that direct one-on-one customer service. I deal with all our customer service issues. I pack every order myself. You're going to get your help from me and not from who knows who, and I can guarantee you'll get a response quickly. And our Discord community is amazing. If you purchase from us, you should get a link to our Discord server to join, and probably one of the best communities out there right now for people who are into building. Everybody's super helpful, super welcoming, drama-free, where people can just build and share the hobby, and it's great. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Please like and subscribe.